while you're off gallivanting around Qatar, Matt, Chelsea are back at home doing some business, and out of nowhere, and thus you probably knew this was coming, Trevo said, sure, I'll extend again. Didn't he just extend like the season under Tuchel, his first season under Tuchel?
Yeah. It's all very in line with this kind of keeping the young players and the academy graduates rewarded, keeping them on the rebalance. I've written about this before, about the rebalancing of the wage bill and getting people who they feel deserve to be higher up the wage bill, and trying to get others off the wage bill, even if it means taking a little bit of a hit transfer fee wise. And this is part of that. It's another 6-year contract, I think it comes to, but in the end, so they're very keen on these 6-7 year contracts if they can get players to sign them. Worth noting that under Graham Potter, Trevor Chalobah is the outfield player with the most minutes, even more than Mason Mount now. So Potter obviously likes him. He didn't obviously start the first couple of games under Potter, but with Fofana's injury gone, and done really well. Very unlucky actually not to force his way last minute into the England World Cup squad, I thought. Totally deserved, totally the right thing to do. Getting these kids feeling valued and not feeling like they're sort of the underclass to the big signings as well. Yeah, good. Deserved.
We got some good bants on Instagram here, Dan.
Yeah, well, this was on the announcement to a Thiago Silva replying on Instagram. You'll have to run mine until 2028. The prayer hands emoji. And I don't think many Chelsea supporters would be unhappy that if he did get a little bit more of an extension here.
It's going to be really interesting. Go on.
I was just going to say, of course, Thiago's in the mention section, also extending his as well, Matt. I mean, you love to see Silva getting involved.
Yeah. He's. I'm surprised his wife hasn't got involved actually as well. She likes some Instagram action and some Chelsea banter on Instagram usually. But yeah, again on Silva, interesting after the World Cup how that goes, because everything about moving to Chelsea to start with, it was about getting to this World Cup, doing what he could to get to this World Cup. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens to him after this World Cup, particularly if Brazil were to win it, because can he go again? I mean, you wouldn't put it past him. The guy's a machine, but can he go again? I got in trouble actually with Chelsea fans just before the World Cup because I think his performance levels dropped off a little bit, but hopefully it will return after the World Cup.
I mean, you can assume that. I feel confident, Dan, after he comes back with a trophy.
No, yeah. If he comes back with a trophy, maybe his back will be a little bit more sore than when he left. But hopefully, it will be interesting to see which country does advance with it.
Any quick updates on Mason's contract? Obviously, I think everyone said they're going to wait till post World Cup, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, look, Mason's contract. There have been a lot of talks, not an awful lot of movement. I think it's been positive, though. I think that even though there's not an awful lot of movement, I get the impression that things aren't going badly. Talks are going quite positively. The relationship between Mason's people and the new ownership, I'm told, is good. I think some of the talks got a little bit held up before the World Cup due to certain people with the ownership being away and being all over the place. So some of the meetings that they'd have liked to have couldn't be had before the World Cup. Those will be definitely had after the post-World Cup. The issue for all clubs with any player in a contract negotiation or a transfer situation around the World Cup is obviously good performances add zeros. They don't take off zeros. Bad performances or sort of indifferent performances won't take off zeros, but good performances will certainly add zeros. So, Mason Mount's performance against Iran, for instance, would have certainly upped the ante on the contract talks. I don't think a more quiet game against USA will necessarily take anything away. And should he go and score his first World Cup goal against Wales, then let's add another zero. Do you know what I mean? It's only going to cost Chelsea money, this World Cup. It's not going to take any money off. My thought is he will sign a new contract eventually. I don't have any huge fears about that. I think it could rumble on a little bit, but certainly very quickly after the World Cup, I think the talks will resume very, very quickly after the World Cup.
I was talking to someone about that too, Matt. It's like the World Cup will not hurt Mason, right? He can only gain a stronger position. And again, you can also say with the US game, like the whole team sat back a little bit. So it's not like he was the bum amongst, a brilliant performance. And so I totally get that. Dan, Pulisic rumors hit the newswire a little bit this morning, actually, with a bunch of Premier League teams apparently taking their shot for him in January.
I mean, you would not send him to a club that you are going to compete with for a top 4 position this season. So like the idea that he would go to United is ludicrous to me. The idea that he would go to Newcastle or any of these other sides is just
Arsenal. Yeah.
Dumb.
The duo American with Turner.
They're dumb stories, Matt. And they're, I think it would be more if he went, maybe like a permanent move or maybe trying to find him a place where he would call home. But I don't think Chelsea would sanction a move to a direct rival for these top 4 positions.
Not in January. They would sanction I think they'd sanction a move to one of those clubs come the end of the season. So that would then have to spark a decision of whether they hold on to him for the rest of the season and then look to do one of those deals for the end of the season. Whether they can find him somewhere in January that, like you say, won't cause them a problem. I mean, if Ziyech were to go in January, maybe there's a role for Pulisic until the end of the season. But a good World Cup for him is a good World Cup for Chelsea because it gives them options and brings an interest, which I think they would dearly like to spark. Like I say, whether that be for January or the end of the transfer window, the end of the season is probably more difficult to judge. They'll certainly have a chance of getting more money out of a Newcastle, a United, or an Arsenal than they would off the continent. But as you say, that they would be insane to let him go to one of their top 4 rivals, the position they're currently in. Again,
Abramovich is offered up transfers that weren't ideal at the time in return for long-serving legacies. We got to see what Bully does. He doesn't have that kind of connection, so we'll see how it plays out.